Hey everyone, welcome back to another deep dive. Today we're going to be looking into something pretty interesting, I think. It's a letter called Success Comes from the Gut by this guy, Matt Furey.
I am Matt Furey.
And it's actually a letter he wrote to his son, Frank. So we're dealing with like a personal piece of advice here, about achieving success.
Yeah, it's not like a big, long, formal book or anything. It's like a father talking to his son.
Sharing his wisdom, right?
Right. And what we're going to try to do in this deep dive is really drill down and see if we can extract his main core idea. What does he think is the absolute most important thing for success?
The bedrock, the foundation.
Yeah. And then kind of understand, like, how did he even come to believe this? What experiences shaped his thinking?
Absolutely, yeah. Trace the origin of that belief.
So the letter starts, it kind of starts in an interesting way. I mean, it's nothing too fancy. It's just him describing wrestling with his son.
Play wrestling, right?
Yeah, just like a dad being a dad. Just a normal father-son moment, But then right in the middle of this playful moment, this huge question pops into his head.
Well, what is it?
He asks himself, if there was only one thing I could teach you in life, what would it be?
Wow. That's a big question to spring on yourself.
Yeah, it's a profound question, isn't it?
It is. I mean, it just comes out of this ordinary, everyday scene. I guess it just goes to show these moments of insight, they can come when you least expect them.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
Anyway, so he gives it a lot of thought, and eventually he arrives at his, as he calls it, his number one thing.
Okay, let's hear it.
Ready for this? We become what we think about. Picture in our mind's eye and speak about so long as it is mixed with deep feeling and emotion.
Interesting. It's like he's pulling together a bunch of ideas that we've heard before, right?
Yeah, like that idea of the Servo-Mechanism. Remember, it's that term from Dr. Maxwell Maltz. He talked about it as like our inner guidance system, the thing that helps us move towards our goals. Yeah. Like a thermostat for your life, I guess.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Like you set the temperature and then boom, your internal system, it kicks into gear to get you there.
Exactly. And then later on, Furey himself actually mentions the law of attraction, which is kind of similar. It's all about attracting the things you focus on.
Oh, yeah. But I think he's adding something extra to it. Like it's not just thinking good thoughts in a vague way.
You're right. He's emphasizing visualization.
Yeah.
Really seeing it in your mind's eye.
Mm-hmm.
And speaking it out loud, making it real. And the biggest thing, the thing that really sets it apart is the emotion. He's got to have that deep feeling attached to it.
Right. The feeling. It's like the fuel that powers the whole thing.
That's it. The intensity, the passion.
And, to make his point, he throws in a bunch of famous quotes and stuff.
Oh, yeah. What are some of them?
Well, there's that one, what we think we become. That one's super famous. Mm-hmm. And then there's the biblical saying, as a man thinketh in his heart, so is he.
Right. Classic wisdom.
And there's thoughts or things. That's another good one. He also says that which is like unto itself is drawn, which is kind of like a fancy way of saying birds of a feather flock together.
I see. He's really weaving together a lot of different threads here. Yeah. But the bottom line is he's taking these big ideas, these kind of abstract concepts, and turning them into a practical strategy.
Exactly. It's not just about understanding it all intellectually. It's about using your mind and your emotions in a very focused way.
And he backs it all up with his own personal experiences, right?
Yeah, like this amazing story about his high school wrestling championship.
Tell me about it.
So picture this. He's this young wrestler, right? Coming from a program that frankly wasn't that great. Didn't have much coaching or resources.
Okay, so he's already starting at a disadvantage.
Mm-hmm. Totally.
Yeah.
And going into the state championships, well, he's a huge underdog. Nobody really expects him to do much.
Classic underdog story, huh?
Yeah, it is. But here's the thing. Right from the beginning, he's absolutely convinced he's going to win. I mean, even his coach is doubtful. There's this moment where his coach tells him, like, hey, why don't you just watch the semifinals? Don't get your hopes up about competing.
Ouch. I mean, that kind of tells you what everyone else thought of his chances.
Yeah, but Furey, he's like, nope, I'm going to be in those semifinals, coach. I'm going to win. His belief was just so strong, it's like he didn't even entertain the possibility of losing.
It's amazing how much our own beliefs can shape our reality. Like if his coach didn't believe in him, but he believed in himself.
Exactly. And you know what? He pulls off this incredible upset. He beats the defending champion, this guy Wayne Love. Wayne was undefeated, a top college recruit, a star athlete, but Furey just wears him down.
Wow. Do you think it was all mental, or was he just physically better too?
Well, it's probably a mix of both. But you gotta admit, that level of self-belief, it's gotta give you an edge, right?
Yeah, it's like an extra source of energy almost.
Right. And then, in the semifinals, he faces another tough opponent, this guy with a long winning streak. And at one point, he almost gets pinned.
Oh no, that's got to be nerve-wracking.
It is, but somehow he manages to fight back and wins the match convincingly. Again, it seems like that inner belief, it really carried him through.
So he's 2 for 2, defying the odds. But what about the finals?
Ah, the finals. This is where things get really interesting. He talks about how all of a sudden he starts getting hit with these negative thoughts, these doubts, these anxieties. They just creep in.
I mean, it makes sense, right? The pressure's on. He's so close to his goal.
Yeah, it's like his own mind starts sabotaging him.
It happens to the best of us. So what happens? Does he win?
He loses by 1 point. It's a heartbreaking loss after such an incredible run.
Oh man, that's got to sting.
It does. But here's the thing. He doesn't just wallow in self-pity. He actually uses that loss, that pain, to fuel his future motivation.
How does he do that?
Well, he keeps a picture of himself standing on that second-place podium. It's a constant reminder of what he doesn't want to feel again. And during his college years, he really starts focusing on what he calls mental conditioning. He writes down his goal over and over again: national champion.
He's really putting that A#1 principle into practice, visualizing, speaking it out loud.
Yeah, and he even carries around this little goal card that just says national champion, which he repeats to himself throughout the day. He's creating this intense mental focus on his desired outcome.
It's like he's training his mind like an athlete trains their body.
Exactly. So fast forward 4 years, he's now in the NCAA 2N national finals. He's already set a school record for wins, so obviously he's got the physical skills. But guess what? Right before the match, those familiar doubts, they start creeping back in.
Oh no. It's like that mental hurdle. It's always there, lurking in the background.
It is. But this time, he's ready. He recognizes those thoughts for what they are. He tunes into what he calls his servo-mechanism, that inner guidance system. And he finds a quiet place. And for 15 minutes, he just sits there, completely visualizing himself standing on top of that victory stand. He's feeling the emotions, the joy, the pride, the sense of accomplishment.
Wow, he's really doing a full-on mental rehearsal, like feeling it in his body.
And it works. He goes out there and wins the national championship. He beats his opponent 8-4. And he specifically says, like, this victory, it was a direct result of that mental preparation.
That's pretty powerful. It really shows how much our thoughts and emotions can influence our performance, even in something as physical as wrestling.
Yeah, totally. So, okay, he's shown how this works in sports. But he argues that this principle, it goes way beyond athletics. It applies to anything you want to achieve in life.
Right. He specifically mentions his business success,
Right.
which is interesting because he had no prior experience in business.
Mm-hmm.
And, most new businesses, they fail.
Yeah, the odds are stacked against you. But he argues that the same principles apply. You got to have a clearly defined goal, a plan to get there, and then you got to take consistent action. And when you hit setbacks, which you inevitably will, you don't give up. You treat them as learning experiences.
He's really emphasizing that mindset of persistence, isn't he?
Yeah, and he keeps talking about the importance of training your mind, like actively identifying and shutting down negative thoughts, keeping your mental energy focused on your goals. It's like a constant battle, a mental discipline.
So it's not a one-time fix. It's an ongoing process.
Exactly. And then he talks about this pivotal moment in his life, the 1997 Shuai Kung Fu World Championships in Beijing. He says this is when he truly understood the power of his mind to shape his reality.
What happened in Beijing?
Okay, so he's preparing for these championships, and he describes consciously connecting the positive feelings he had from his past victories to his future goal of winning the world title. He's basically building this emotional bridge to his desired outcome.
Interesting. It's like he's using his past successes as fuel for his future goals.
Right. He's not just physically training. He's actively training his mind to anticipate victory, to believe in it. And he shares this mantra he used during training. He kept repeating, I can win the world title this year at 198 pounds in Beijing. And then he even takes it a step further. He says, I will win the world title in Shuai Kung Fu this year at 198 pounds in Beijing.
Wow. He's not messing around. It's like he's declaring it to the universe.
Exactly. And he contrasts his own positive self-talk with what his teammates were saying. They were understandably nervous. They were going up against these incredibly skilled Chinese athletes.
Yeah.
And they were saying things like, oh, those Chinese guys, they're going to crush us.
I see. They're already setting themselves up for defeat with that kind of talk.
Yeah, and Furey, he overhears this and he's like, forget the Chinese. I never enter a tournament. I don't expect to win. And if I have to beat one of them to win the title, so be it. It's such a powerful statement of confidence.
He's basically saying, my mindset is more important than who I'm competing against.
Yeah. So the tournament in Beijing, it takes an unexpected turn. His initial bracket, it's a really tough one. He's up against the Taiwanese wrestler in the first round, and then potentially the Chinese and Mongolian national champions after that.
Yeah, that's a brutal path to the finals.
It is. But then something really weird happens. His bracket and his bracket only, it gets changed.
Why? How does that even happen?
I don't know, but it does. Suddenly, he's facing competitors from Italy and France in the early rounds. Some people might say it's just luck, but Furey, he sees it as a manifestation of what he calls universal law.
He's saying his thoughts and intentions actually influence the external circumstances.
Yeah, he truly believes that. So he wins his first 3 matches, and then in the finals, he faces the Chinese-Mongolian national champion. And it's a close match. It ends in a tie. And get this. The referee initially declares his opponent the winner.
Oh, no. That's got to be devastating.
It is. But a protest is lodged, and the Chinese Olympic judo arbitrator reviews the match. And guess what? They reverse the decision. Furey wins the world championship.
Wow. What a roller coaster of emotions that must have been.
I know, right? And he interprets this whole chain of events as evidence of his principle. He believes his focused visualization during training, his unwavering belief in victory, it somehow contributed to that outcome.
So it's not just about achieving individual goals, it's about shaping your reality.
Yeah. And he goes on to argue that this principle, this anything you want principle, as he calls it, it applies to every area of life.
Like what?
Everything. Your physical body, your intellectual pursuits, your finances, your career, your relationships, your living environment, doesn't matter. He believes this principle, it works across the board.
So how does it work?
He says it all starts with that internal servo-mechanism, that inner guidance system. You feed it a clear mental image of what you want, you attach strong emotion to it, and then the law of attraction kicks in and starts bringing it into your reality.
Okay, so it's like a 2-step process.
Yeah.
Visualization and then manifestation.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it. And his advice, his key piece of advice, is to spend time each day, every day, picturing what you want. And not just seeing it, but feeling it, feeling the emotions as if you already have it. And he even suggests, if you do this consistently, you'll start seeing results within a month.
A month, huh? That's a pretty bold claim.
It is. And he also recommends surrounding yourself with the right kind of information. He gives this huge list of books and courses on success, personal development, all that stuff, like the new Psycho-Cybernetics, The Magic of Believing, Napoleon Hill's Laws of Success as a Man Thinketh, The Science of Getting Rich, and a bunch of others.
He's a big believer in the power of books, isn't he?
Yeah, he sees them as tools for shaping your mindset. And, in the PS of his letter, he sums it all up beautifully. He says, picture it. Put feeling into the image, then take action. Do this, and your success is assured.
There it is again, that emphasis on action. It's not enough to just sit around and visualize. You got to actually do something.
Right. So who is this guy, Matt Furey? I mean, obviously, he's someone who's put his own principles into practice.
Yeah, he's definitely not just talking the talk. He's got a pretty impressive background in athletics.
Tell me about it.
Well, he was a state runner-up in wrestling in Iowa, which is a big deal. Iowa's like a wrestling powerhouse. Then he went on to be part of 3 NCAA national championship teams at the University of Iowa under the legendary coach Dan Gable.
Wow, Dan Gable. That's serious wrestling pedigree.
Yeah. And he even won an NCAA Town National title himself, setting a school record for wins at Edinburgh University.
So he's got the wrestling credentials, but didn't he also do some kung fu?
Right. He actually won multiple national and a world championship in Shui Kiao Kung Fu. And he beat some of the best Chinese and Mongolian fighters in China, no less. That's pretty remarkable.
Yeah, it shows a lot of dedication and skill.
And after he retired from competition, he didn't just rest on his laurels. He became a best-selling author, an instructor, sharing his knowledge about success, fitness, martial arts, all that stuff.
He was also dubbed the King of Catch in Catch as Catch-Can Wrestling, which is another really tough style of grappling.
Yeah, he's definitely a well-rounded athlete and a successful entrepreneur. And it all goes back to that core message he shared with his son.
So, as we wrap up this deep dive, I think the biggest takeaway for our listeners is this idea that you can achieve almost anything you set your mind to. But it's not just about willpower, it's about using your mind and your emotions in a very specific way.
It's about combining visualization, positive self-talk, and strong emotions to create this powerful force that can pull you towards your goals.
Exactly. So, here's a final thought for you all to consider. Think of a goal you have, maybe one that seems really ambitious, maybe even a little scary. Now, imagine applying Fury's principles to it. Picture yourself achieving it. Really feel those emotions of success and start talking about it with conviction. What impact might that have on your journey towards that goal? And what small step could you take today, right now, to get started?
That's a great question to leave our listeners with. Thanks for joining us on another deep dive.
And we'll see you next time.